guys, so we had a summer reading list and a schedule from all the books that we got from Book Expo that we were going to read this summer, and we had more time than ever and we were going to get on it. And then we both just went different directions on our reading.
It happens. I think after being on the same schedule for like 7 years.
It's just like a much needed like, okay, own reading project time.
Meet up at the end of the summer. Chelsey read a bunch of stuff. I wrote a dissertation. It's fine.
So we're like, well, we need to somehow like turn our experiences into an internet blog because we're those people. So here is our summer reads list. So we decided that we're gonna do 4 books each. If they're the same, they're the same. We'll talk about them at the same time. One that surprised you, one that was really like the strangest one you've read, and then just 2 more that you really wanted to talk about because we're lazy.
Okay, so my summer was completely derailed because I went on Goodreads, as I do. I don't know, I was feeling really nostalgic. And I was thinking about The Guardians of Time, which was one of the first books Chelsey ever recommended me. I don't know why I was thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look up The Guardians of Time and look up Marianne Curley, because I haven't thought about Marianne Curley in years. And what do I see? I see this book series that is a trilogy and has been a trilogy for as long as I remember. A new book released 7 months ago, and we didn't know. And so I was just like, I will post the screen grab of our text chat because I kind of lost my mind. Book buying bans were broken that day.
So tell us about the series then.
So the Guardians of Time series, there were, well, it used to be a trilogy, it's 4 books now. So I decided that before I read The Shadow, the new book, I would reread The Guardians of Time. And I went on a quest of self-discovery, and I learned a lot about myself.
That's what summer reading is for.
That's what my summer dissertation was about, because I wrote a lot of stuff about the Guardians of Time. And the Guardians of Time is a series of books that follows 2 organizations, the Order of Chaos, which will never not be funny, and the Guardians of Time.
I never put that together.
And they are fighting through time. The Order of Chaos is run by this goddess Lathieta, and she wants to take over the world, and to take over the world she sends agents into the past to change the past, to make the future more favorable for her. So the Guardians of Time go back in time and defend the past. And it's fun and it's silly and it's a wonderful concept and
it's melodramatic.
It's melodramatic. Doesn't really have a writing style, but it kind of works for it because book 2, halfway through book 2, I was so invested. I was surprised how invested I was. And I have book 2 memorized. So it wasn't like it was gonna surprise me. Book 3, I did not remember anything. That's why I reread it, because I thought I should probably read the book before.
You learned that if you want to give a book to a 16-year-old girl that she's going to fucking die over, this is the series, because it's got drama, it's got terrible writing, but in the best way possible. It's got female characters that actually defend the male characters.
Yeah, the whole plot of the second book is this. There's this male character who we talk about all the time on this channel, Arcarian, who is the heart and soul of the team. Everybody loves him. No one in this book series can say a bad thing about him. And he gets kidnapped. And so his love interest is just well, we gotta get him back. And she spends the entire book questing to get him. And when she gets to him, she gets to save him and not have to be saved. She doesn't have to be saved. And it just
blew teenage our minds. This is what we could be.
And there's just so much in these books that kind of worked its way into my brain meat. And I see myself looking for certain tropes and looking for certain turns in books I'm reading now. And it was kind of cool to kind of see where that was instilled into me.
I'm glad I changed your life.
Chelsey changed my life, there you go. But, so we're in this really fun situation, which is Chelsey doesn't remember a lot of certain books. So I wrote summaries.
I'm so excited to read.
Which I'm going to unleash on her very soon.
I expect they're going to be really sarcastic and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sarcastic.
So is that something that surprised you, or is that just your general pick?
I think it surprised me because the self-discovery aspect.
Yeah, fair enough.
I learned about myself. I'm really happy I did it, and I still really appreciate the books. I think I appreciate them more now, but I'm very much aware that probably if I didn't have the nostalgic goggles, I wouldn't like them as much as I do.
Yeah.
There's so much in these books that is not said, but I know because I've read them so many times that I know that's the way the story is supposed to go, like relationships and the like, and man, some of the characters aren't that likable. What made you learn things, Chelsey?
Okay. The one book that actually surprised me was I read The Black Witch by Laurie Forst. And what I had heard about this book was like just all the controversy back and forth, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna judge this thing, I'm gonna read it, and I really enjoyed reading it. I mean, I looked at a lot of the criticism of it and I was like, this doesn't fit for me. When I'm reading this book, I don't see it as other people are saying it. And like, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I would say go read that book for yourself because I really enjoyed it. I had moments where I was like flashing back again to my childhood where I'm like, oh my god, this woman is like Mrs. Coulter from His Dark Materials, and I'm like, oh no, she's back to haunt us all, like holy shit. And you know, there's just like, I think there was like a Harry Potter reference in there. And then because I've been listening to, if you've ever heard of it, it's called Behind the Bastards by Robert Evans. It's a podcast. And so there was a couple of them where he's going through like the things that allowed Hitler to come into power. And it's not like just like, oh, the economy was bad. It's like things that people did where they thought they were doing something else, but it actually helped the Nazis. And so I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh, there's that, and there's that, and there's that. And then I'm like, oh my god, and then I can see Trump in here. But it's not like all just like referencing like nowadays. It's not like purposely doing it, it's just kind of the way it got built into the world, and I really like that.
The strangest book I read comes out hopefully sometime after this video is released because I don't even know anymore, and that is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. She wrote this for the 200th anniversary of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So just let that sink in a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I was correct with the 200 because that's just crazy. And so the book tells the story of Frankenstein, but it's from the perspective of Elizabeth, who was just kind of like a one-note character in the original novel. She like marries Victor. They were like childhood friends. She marries Victor and then she dies on her wedding night because the monster kills her because Victor must know pain until the monster gets a mate. This book, I don't really want to spoil it because it kind of twists the story in some really, really fun ways, but it is the like best gothic teen fiction I have come across in a long time. Like, it has atmosphere up the wazoo, and I can't believe I just said wazoo.
I'm like halfway to like a third of the way through it, and yeah, it's full of
it's dark.
Yeah,
I love it. And she makes no, like, there's no pretense that Victor is a good person. You're kind of trapped with this narrator who, she's very unreliable in the fact that she's convinced herself of one thing and she refuses to see past that thing, and so maybe when she's kind of confronted with the truth trademarked, it's not going to be very easy for her. If you like your Crimson Peaks and your gothic romances,
that's the way to go.
And read this one on a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, but hey, it's coming out soon.
It's really good.
So the weirdest thing I read this summer was actually The Skeleton Crew. And this was a book that I heard about from My Favorite Murder because Georgia recommended it, and usually her recommendations are on point. She's always recommending stuff and I'm like listening to it and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. But so The Skeleton Crew is just like this kind of exploration of the people who are like armchair detectives online who are like solving mysteries. By mysteries I mean like murders, and they're connecting people who haven't been identified with like their like crimes that killed them, or like figuring out who they are. So the police kind of like them and they kind of don't. Sometimes they get in the way, sometimes they can be really demanding. And so it's kind of like they exist in this zone where like people don't quite know what to do with them yet, but there's this whole community of people who have solved murders and like, not murders, but solved like identities of people that have been mysteries forever. There was this one girl called Tent Girl who was just like wrapped up in like what was a tent, and she was like found at the side of the road in like the middle states. I don't know any of them. This one guy found her, and so that was his story for a long time, was telling about how he found her, but then his son-in-law goes and becomes obsessed with her murder and figures out her identity against all odds and against everything, and then just makes a career out of it. It's crazy. And so you get all these stories about people who have solved the identities of missing people, and how their world kind of developed in the different websites that are out there, and then of course you get the infighting and the drama and all that as well. And it's just for anybody who loves cold cases and just solving mysteries and people who do really incredible things, this is a book that you should definitely pick up because it is so interesting, and I just flew through it. Okay, so one book you want to talk about.
Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero. And this was a book that we had been seeing everywhere, and it had this absolutely gorgeous cover, and we both wanted to read it, but we just didn't have time. And then, one day I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna read it. And this book is kind of inspired by Scooby-Doo. So it follows this gang of childhood detectives. They were detectives solving, ridiculous Scooby-Doo-esque crime. And so this picks up 20 years into the future. They're all adult, and they come back to solve their last case because they kind of realize that their last case kind of tied up just a little bit too neatly, and maybe it was actually magic. And maybe it's cosmic horror magic, and someone's trying to wake up a god they shouldn't be waking up, and it is so much fun.
And that's your shit.
And that is my shit! So if you really liked Scooby-Doo, then this might be a good read for you. If you like cosmic horror, this is kind of like cosmic horror light, one would say. I have to lend it to Chelsey. It's so much fun. It was so a quick fun read.
I have to say I'm dying to read it. I've been eyeing it for over a year. So the book I really enjoyed, and I just want to talk about because it was so good, was called The Good Demon by Jimmy Cajoles. And we got it at Book Expo, and I was super excited to read it because it's about a girl who had a demon. It got exorcised, and then all of a sudden she has to live her life without this demon who was her best friend. And she's like, holy shit, what do I do? And so she lives in the deep south where you've got, your uber Christian preachers, and you've got people live and die in this town, and there's the ultra rich, and then there's the super poor, and not much of anything in between. And she's been living with her mom, who just remarried, but her marriage isn't going so well anymore. It started out really great, but now he's getting more possessive and drinking more, and just the marriage is slowly crumbling. She doesn't quite like him all that much. He's kind of a dick to her, especially, just tries to control her life. And she ends up making friends with the son of the guy who exorcised her demon. And he is super Christian as well, and they start to fall in love, but she really wants to find her demon. She kind of goes into this adventure through the darkness of this southern town where there's a secret society that was controlling shit, and they had disappeared for some reason, but now they're kind of creeping back into the politics again. And so you just get this really atmospheric, fun coming of age story with this supernatural element on top, and she kind of has to figure out who she is and kind of what she wants before it's too late. And I highly recommend it if you're looking for something spooky and just different than what you've read before, because it's great.
I want to read that this October. Speaking of spooky,
woo!
I just dove headfirst into my biggest fear. And that's basically a book called Contagion by Aaron Bowman, and it is about a group of miners, space, who get a distress signal and go to investigate, only to find everyone on the planet dead, and a crazy ass parasitic contagion is just burning its way through this rescue squad. And can they get out in time? And there's someone there who survived, and can they trust them? And holy shit, this is not This is not good. The book manages to start at one of my biggest fears and end on a completely different one. So
It's impressive.
it's very impressive. Like, the tension in this book is great. The story, it's kind of interesting because, like, the plot line is something that you've seen multiple times. Like, think Alien, think The Strain. Like, you know this. People show up, there's a contagion, they get picked off one by one. A couple people might survive. See 28 days later. It's what she does with the characters and the atmosphere that makes this book really stand out. And there's a sequel, because it's a duology, and I really want to see where it goes. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I took it out from the library. I put it on hold. It was like a big deal because I managed to like squeeze it into my reading schedule. But I highly recommend it, and I wasn't too scared. Like, I went into this book just like, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe this is a mistake. I mean, I put off watching Alien till I was in my early 20s. I still have not watched Alien Covenant because I know that's just gonna be like a shit show for me. And I spent the first third of the book just being like, okay, it's fine. Like, something bad's gonna happen, it's fine. Something bad's gonna happen, it's fine. The bad thing finally happens, and then I was fine. Because I'm like, okay, like, you're building up to like the point where the infection happens and everyone starts to die, and then you're like, oh, I know how this goes. Everyone's gonna die. And then you're okay. I do really good in horror movies.
Yay! The last book that I wanted to talk about was Erosha and the End of Time. And I saw this on like one of the posters at Book Expo, and I was like, oh my god, I really want to read that, but we didn't get a chance to get it. So I'm like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna buy it. And I did. And it was the best decision I've ever made, because it's like right up there for me with like the Cassandra Clare and Holly Black middle grade. And I don't usually read middle grade, I don't usually enjoy middle grade too much, but this is just like the cutest freaking thing you've ever had, because she's taking Indian mythology, number one. She kind of modernized it, so like the Night Bazaar is now like a Costco, but like a magical Costco.
That has like a Vasa in the Night vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's taking this mythology where the 5 main characters were brothers, and she turned them into girls. And so you get this like weird, like this like thing where they're like looking at these myths and they're like, oh, that's a little weird, because like the 5 brothers have one wife, and she's like, huh. Okay. And so, you know, you're promised a whole bunch of books in the series, and you only get to meet 2 of the 5 brothers, so you know she's left room to grow. And the author, I've read her other big teen fiction series. It was a little much for me. I don't know, like, she had nice flowery language, but then the whole book felt like you were eating a flower. But in this book, it's like perfectly mixed with like the modern and like the fantastical, so you just get like the right blend of like flowery and like atmosphere and all that kind of stuff with these really cute characters that are just like trying to do their main thing, because like the one girl is very curious and she ends up releasing this demon that's supposed to end time. And she kind of did it to impress her classmates, but she did it because she's like, nothing's gonna happen, oh my god. And if you want something fun and easy and just like fantastic, that's what you gotta read.
So my question is, what are you reading right now?
So I started reading Wildcard by Mary Lou, and I'm halfway through and I'm really enjoying it. She's getting into a whole bunch of stuff that she kind of didn't touch on before, like exactly who the Blackcoats are, and you get to learn more about Zero's past, and you know, maybe Hideo isn't like as fucked up as, like, well, not as fucked up, but like
I'm like, you're talking about my Hideo?
Maybe he can be redeemed is what I'm trying to say.
I don't want him to be redeemed. That's not what I wanted.
I know.
Oh god, okay.
But she does it in like a good way. Like, he's not like, oh, I've done a bad thing, but she's like, maybe I can convince him that this was a bad fucking plan.
I am doing what I normally do, and that is reading multiple things at once because I have the attention span of a goldfish. I am reading The Shadow, the 4th book in the Guardians of Time series. That is my bus book. And the other book I am reading is probably my most anticipated like release right now, which is A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. by Mackenzie Lee, which is sequel to Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and man, those are two of the best titles I've ever come across.
So we actually did a lot of reading this summer.
Yes.
It wasn't what we were supposed to be reading, but we did a lot of reading.
And I'm sorry, end of September you're gonna lose me again because Vengeful comes out.
Oh, fuck.
You should read Vicious in the...
Yeah, I really should. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of books.
But
check out our website because everything we've talked about, most of it has posts. Like, we haven't really been filming a lot because of crazy personal life things that are going on in the summer, but we've been writing posts. There are post reviews on our website, like Chelsea's review of The Black Witch, my review of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. Clearly, we're just, like, have to follow our stars.
we're still here.
And we will see you soon, I swear to God. Bye, guys.
2 years later.